Hi, I'm Victor Lambs, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. Joining me today are Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Victor.
And Jeff Haecker. Tech Mate, Jeff, and welcome to the podcast.
Tech Mate, Victor. Thank you.
Excellent. And Jack couldn't be with us today because a shadowy extra-governmental organization is holding him for ransom. I think they got Father Corey, too. So, Jeff, before we get started, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience with Stargate? Are you an original fan from back in the day?
Yeah, I am. I would say I'm pretty original. I saw the movie in the theaters in the 90s. I was pretty young, and I remember getting kind of freaked out by Ra's eyes flashing in the helmets and stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I don't think I watched the first 5 or so seasons as they were coming out, but whenever Sci-Fi took over and they started rerunning it, I think it was Monday nights, they would run like 3 episodes a night or something. I started watching it as much as I could, and then I think it was around season 6, I started keeping up with it, and then I definitely watched season 7 onward and up until the end of Universe. So yeah, I would say I'm a pretty original fan of the movie, at least. But then, yeah, I've rewatched it. I don't know how many times since. I was rewatching it before the Y'all's podcast, and then I'm doing a rewatch with the podcast. So yeah, it's one I can just watch over and over again.
Excellent. Yeah, well, welcome. We're happy to have you here as we discuss the 7th episode of Season 8 of SG1, Affinity. Teal'c finally moves into an apartment off base. His attempts to blend in with humanity and help his neighbors lead to both humorous and dangerous situations. Teal'c's life takes a turn when he gets involved with his neighbor Krista, who is in an abusive relationship. After publicly threatening Krista's boyfriend, Teal'c is framed for murder. The Trust, a group of former NID agents, which will be introduced to next episode, uses this situation to kidnap and blackmail Daniel into translating ancient text for them. Meanwhile, Pete Shanahan proposes to Samantha Carter, who doesn't immediately, for several weeks, give him an answer. In the end, SG1 works together to clear Teal'c's name and save Daniel from the Trust. The episode ends with Teal'c returning to his quarters on the base and Sam accepting Pete's marriage proposal. What did you think of this episode, Lisa?
There's so many things about this episode that I really, really like and I really enjoyed. But there's something that just irks me and I can't put my finger on it. So I'm hoping the two of y'all are going to help me figure out what that irk is, because it just won't go away. I hate that Jack is not with us this week, because he's been waiting and waiting to get Teal'c in an apartment to like see it, and we're seeing it, and he's not available to record tonight. I think Peter DeLuise wrote this and was the director, and you see his humor and the way he handles the characters all throughout it. Sam and Pete, and then Sam and Jack. We'll talk about that later. I don't know. I like it, but I don't.
How about you, Jeff? What did you think?
Yeah, it's one I hadn't watched in a while. It's probably been a couple of years, and I'd really honestly forgotten about the whole trust part of it. I remembered all the stuff with Teal'c and Krista and the relationship, and I remember the boyfriend died and he was framed, but I had forgotten about the trust part of it. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I know y'all like to make fun of Pete, and I kind of am like, yeah, I agree. He's not I don't think he's the one for Sam, but yeah, this one was good. And it was interesting seeing Erica Durance here, because back whenever it first came out, I hadn't watched Smallville, but I've since watched Smallville, because she plays Lois Lane on that, and I think this aired actually before she started on Smallville, so it was kind of cool to see her in a pre-Lois Lane role, because that's kind of, I think, what she's most known for. So yeah, overall I liked it, and I've kind of forgotten a lot of these smaller things in season 8, like with the trust, so I kind of interesting to see where it'll all go in the coming up episodes.
Yeah, this is one that I hadn't remembered seeing. I think when I rewatched the show, I just skipped past this one because they're not in outer space, and it's just kind of, even though Erica Durance is in it. And yeah, she recorded this about a month before she got hired to be on Smallville. I think it was right before Smallville. But yeah, I agree. There's things to like in this episode, but it does kind of irk me as well. I have some theories about what might be irksome about it. I think part of it is the character of Krista, who, when you get down to it, is not a very good person, but she's written like a very good person. So, and Peter DeLuise, had written Krista as kind of older than I think Erica Durance, the actor, was at the time, but was kind of overruled, I think, on the hiring of her. So yeah, there's some weird bits in here, but yeah, we'll talk about that, I guess, a little bit. And it is, I like Pete. He is kind of, just Wonder Bread, for the most part. He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
It's kind of spongy, but he helps out again and unveils some secret clues to help clear Teal'c's name. So yeah.
I'll say that as far as Pete goes, this is one of his best episodes.
Mm-hmm.
There's not too much objectionable, except for when he kind of makes fun of, except for the time I stalked you, which was in response to the fan outrage about him stalking Sam. I mean, they were cute. I'll give it to them. They were cute. They have good chemistry. I still don't like them, but there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, I like the proposal. I mean, the proposal scene was good. Peter DeLuise intentionally set it in a park, because he wanted there to be kids around. He said, if you're going to have a proposal scene, make sure that there's kids around. Also, because they were using the park later for the Trust and Daniel scenes too, so they wanted to get their full day's worth of shooting and setting up the cameras and stuff out of it. But that scene in the park, there's a lot of kind of guest, cameos in the background there. We see Peter DeLuise coming up to the hot dog stand holding Michael Greenberg's son. We see Amanda Tapping's mom is in it. Yeah, in a red dress, kind of walking past the slide in the background, and I think Michael Greenberg's wife is in it, who played one of the female Jaffa in the Moloch episode. So that was kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I liked the setting because Pete and Sam have been in the park numerous times. It seems to be their date place, I guess. And it, seeing how the conversation goes when later back at the base where she's talking about marriage and kids and, all the things. I don't know, it just seemed to be a nice contrast to being in the base to being outside, especially in a place where there's lots of families.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that conversation what she had with Jack about having kids. It brought to mind the Heroes episode from season 7 where I forget the guy's name, but two of the people on the team on that SG team had kids, and one of them one of them hadn't had a kid yet. Mm-hmm. So and she's like, well, what do I do? If I'm going off to a different planet every week, do I leave the kid or what do how that is interesting to think about, is if you're like, how do you explain, well, mommy's on another planet and she's fighting aliens this week.
Mom's on a dangerous work trip.
Yeah. And Jack in that scene does mention, there are people on the base who do have families. I don't know if they're on active SG teams or not. He didn't mention that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get some soul searching by Sam in this episode. We'll put aside the main kind of A plot on this and just focus on probably the more interesting plot, which is, so we get some cool scenes where, Sam and we get a humorous scene that was actually written by Brad Wright. On the commentary, Peter DeLuise mentioned that Brad Wright wrote the scene where Sam, Daniel, and Teal'c are kind of in the base, and Daniel and Teal'c are talking, and Sam is clearly thinking about her own, issues and keeps jumping in, and it's a very funny scene. And then later on, Jack comes in and has a meaningful conversation with her.
And Michael Shanks did a really good job in that scene.
Yeah.
Where he says something like, how's it going? And she's like, fine. But his face during that whole exchange was just priceless. I loved it. That was good. And then with the Jack scene, we find out it's been 2 weeks since he proposed and nothing, which is a bit strange. It's a bit strange.
We know that Pete is very patient, though. Pete plays the long game.
Well, and you think about it in the park where he says, I put in a transfer to Colorado Springs. And for a moment, like the look on her face for just a minute is like, how do I feel about this? Like,
why?
Little forward.
Well, I like the line when she was talking to Jack in the lab, and he says, "Carter, I say something I've never said before. I need that report."
Yeah, that was good.
And if she's behind on her work, then she's definitely doesn't know what to do because she's very on top of her work usually.
Yeah. And where he said that you haven't tried to, what was it, confuse me lately, and that's a red flag.
Yeah.
That was good. I like that. I mean, we didn't get all four of them. I don't think we got all four of them in a room, did we?
No, I don't think we did.
But at least we got a little bit of Richard Dean Anderson. He was with Carter, but I don't think he was with the other two. I can't remember. But, we got a little bit of SG1 as a team still together.
Yeah, I think when he's talking to maybe Teal'c and Daniel or Carter and Daniel, we see O'Neill's shoulder, and it's not Richard Dean Anderson's shoulder. So they filmed like the two sides of the conversation weeks apart.
Don't ruin the magic.
I know. But and then Sam asks O'Neill, like, what things have been different if you had basically kept your family,
Mm-hmm.
and he answers, I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Dean Anderson, he got to start, in soap operas acting and then MacGyver and stuff. So he can do a lot with, just a look or an inflection. And that inflection of the way he said that, like, I wouldn't be here, was very controversial to the showrunners. They were thinking of actually like overdubbing it because it was very ambiguous. Like, is he saying he wouldn't be at Stargate, or he would be with Sam, or he wouldn't be with Sam, or?
There's almost a little bit of meta to that too, because he's and Richard Dean Anderson was wanting to spend more time with his family, so he was like he's not there in the screen because he's off screen living as being a dad.
That's true.
That's very perceptive. Yeah.
And when I heard it, I don't remember what I thought 20 years ago. I don't think I was upset by it at all. And then when I watched it again this time, I'm like, it was ambiguous, and I kind of liked that it was, because you just fill in with wherever your, I'll say, bias is in the whole, Sam Jack, is it about the original Stargate movie? And so he wouldn't have been suicidal, so he wouldn't have taken the mission. Like, it just let you fill it in for yourself. So I was kind of okay with that.
And we kind of get an answer to this a little bit, and at the end of the season, I won't spoil, but you kind of do see what an alternate path, what may have happened with Jack. Yeah.
Looking forward to that. I think that is definitely the highlight of the season.
Yeah. And that's why we can all be happy about Pete at this point, because we know he's not really going to stick around. So.
Yeah, I can't remember what happens to Pete, so don't spoil it.
I was trying to think. I don't remember either, other than that he's not there in future seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, back in A-plot land, Teal'c has become kind of an urban superhero. He has an apartment now, and so starting in this season, we saw it in the episode where they were fighting Icon, as a matter of fact, where they were, they had the Stargate outside at the museum, and then there was another thing where they were going through the tunnel. There's actually a partially abandoned mental institution in Vancouver, and that's where they were filming. So one of the main buildings there is empty, and so they took one of the halls of the institution and made it look like an apartment building hall, and then set up an apartment inside one of the rooms in the institution, and so that's where the apartment scenes, the interior, were filmed for this episode. So Teal'c is kind of the superhero here. He's punching people who get upset after car accidents. Kind of like the stereotypical, gang from the hood, that he beats up, and then a shoplifter he's able to take out with a single avocado. And, he has another adoring little kid as a fan. What did you think about his kind of settling into a normal life there?
I think he must have found a pretty interesting thrift shop to get that shirt that you first see him in, because it's like a, I don't know, 70s or something.
Yeah.
That was a
very
trip.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this a dream right now? Because I remember the episode and I was like, is he having like a dream about this? But no, it's what's actually happening.
And he's not covered. He doesn't wear a hat.
Yeah.
So the first time you see him out and about, he's wearing the funky shirt. He doesn't have a hat on. You're right. And then he's beating people up in the middle of the street. And you're like, okay, that's weird.
Yeah. Without the hat, it is kind of weird because they've gone through to such great lengths to cover it up. And then he tells people that, he's Dr. Jackson's research assistant from Mozambique and that it's a tribal tattoo, which I would have worked at any other, season 2, right? He doesn't have any other weird alien features. So
That's
he's
true.
not gold anymore. So
the internet wasn't quite, in 2004, the internet was not what it is now. So I could just see someone on their computer, like, Mozambique tribes, tribal tattoos. Yeah, nobody would. I don't think the internet was very good back then. So it would have taken a lot of work to disprove it. I like that they finally kind of gave us Teal'c off base. I guess you're right. It's the Krista character that drives me bonkers in this episode. I want to like her. I don't know. It's just, you're not sure. Even rewatching it, you're like, is she on the level? Did she really kill the guy and she's trying to frame Teal'c? Like, what's going on? Does she suck up to him to get him to kill her boyfriend? You're just not sure.
Is she part of the trust? You don't know. And then at the end, it's like not really the most boring of explanations, but yeah, so she's flirting with Teal'c, asking him to check her plumbing. This whole thing is like tonight on a very special episode of Stargate SG1. It's like, if you see something, say something. And so, but it turns out that she has a boyfriend, and then she has like marks on her wrist, and her boyfriend is like Noah Wyle, but like a scuzzier version of Noah Wyle. Like, it's like where did they find that? Like, of all the people they could have had to be like an abusive boyfriend, it looks like, just some, like hockey fan or something.
Not the most believable there.
Yeah.
Doug. That was his name. Doug.
Yeah. And then so as Teal'c, and then they're practicing their katra, martial arts, and they're getting like very close and sensuous with that. And Dan Shea was the person with Peter DeLuise, the Sergeant Seiler and the stunt coordinator who did the commentary with Peter DeLuise, and he had to come up with all the martial arts and had to teach Erica Durance how to do the katras and stuff. And all I could say is that I think Dan Shea should be on all the commentaries because he is such like a good, wholesome person. He reins Peter DeLuise in when Peter DeLuise tries to get a little too off topic or off color. And Dan Shea's, not to get off too much of a tangent, his daughter was in this episode as well as a girl riding a bike at the very.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's also at the time was going into stunt work as well. But yeah, and Dan Shea at the thing, he said at the time this was being filmed, he was also Steve Martin's body double for one of the Pink Panther movies. So cool. There you go. Yeah, and so Krista comes up to Teal'c and says, "We got to get out of town quick." And Teal'c's like, "Okay." Won't your boyfriend be mad? And she's like, "Oh, I don't think he'll be mad about anything ever again." No, she doesn't say that, but it's
Teal'c. Teal'c has some experience with the fair sex. Like he's not clueless, and they play him on this very clueless when it comes to women. And I think that bothers me too, because it's like, I don't know. We've seen him have how many love interests over these 8 years? And this one is probably I don't say the youngest, and the only human, I guess. But still, I don't know. It was just like,
I kind of took it as he doesn't have experience really with dating on Earth. He's had experience with Jaffa relationships, and I can't remember if there was any other aliens he had an interest in. But yeah, Earth, an Earth girl is different, and when they started kind of flirting. I said, well, what about Ishta? Because she's still out there, and we'll see her in a couple episodes, I think. She's not gone. So, and he was even talking about her in I believe it was the premiere when Carter and Teal'c were on the ship. She asked him about Ishta. So it's like, come on, Teal'c, what are you? Is it just what are y'all what are you doing here, Teal'c?
He was just helping her with her pipes. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I meant more of like when he goes on the ride and they start, they kiss and they, imply more. I'm like, okay, come on, Teal'c. Like, I mean, I don't know. Are you not in a relationship anymore with Ishta, or what's going on?
Maybe it's very open. Of course, let's also talk for a second about his symbiote pouch.
Yeah.
Is it gone? Is it not gone? Because he doesn't have a shirt on. And he wakes up and is surprised she's gone. And I'm assuming she was in bed because he kind of rolled over and she's gone and he's shirtless. So did the Tritonin heal the pouch? Or are we just pretending he has an exclamation? That's like a tribal thing.
Yeah, tribal scar.
Or he had plastic surgery or something, or a surgery to just close up that, and he's like, "Oh, it's my appendix or something."
Yeah, you'd think that before they let him live off base, they'd like do some surgery if the Tritonin didn't do it. So if he's in like an accident or something, and he goes to hospital, they're not like, "Oh my goodness, what's going on here?" Yeah, no.
Well, online they did say that it was kind of a goof. That's what the online said. It was a goof that they showed his stomach in a kind of a side angle. You could see that there was no pouch.
Okay.
But I don't know. Was it a goof or was there an explanation for it? But we didn't actually get. Was it something that was cut out or? I just don't remember if we ever show him again with a pouch or we just kind of like pretend it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think he takes a staff blast to the stomach at some point, and they said if you still had your, I don't know if they said symbiote or pouch, like you'd be dead, but I don't know. It's weird. And then does Krista ever actually tell Teal'c that she killed Doug or not? We don't see that at all. So I don't know when she was planning on telling him that.
And she didn't get arrested or like talked to by the police or.
No, because she's out at the end, right? Even in a self-defense case, right? If you flee, you're still fleeing, the scene of something and, but so so Krista, she's not written as like manipulative and like, I'm going to ruin it. But that's what she essentially does. And so it's a weird mismatch between how she's written and what she's actually doing.
Okay. See, maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I thought it was the trust that killed him as kind of a way to, maybe I misunderstood that, or maybe it was just that they arranged the body to look like it was Teal'c. That, maybe that's maybe I'm trying to just headcanon a better explanation.
No,
she just wanted to get out and they killed him in the meantime, and then they left.
The trust
was killed him, and
then
the trust arranged the scene to make it look like Teal'c did it, right?
Yeah. Maybe I just want to step beyond and was thinking they actually were the one that killed him or something.
Yeah, they had cameras on him, and then she used the Teal'c's martial arts to kill him.
Okay.
And then the trust came in and put the body up against the wall. And even Peter DeLuise noted that they had to, it's really weird when you have to use the body, like the police body tape, and they're partially leaning up against the wall. So you have this really awkward silhouette that's like halfway up the wall, halfway on the floor.
That's funny.
But yeah, so she did kill him, the trust. And so the trust is using, the footage. Basically, we'll give you the footage that clears Teal'c if Daniel Jackson translates this piece of ancient tech, which I guess actually, so Peter DeLuise does most of the language work on the show himself. He comes up with like the languages, like Jaffa is all, his invention. I think a bunch of the ancient is too. And apparently the text that Daniel sees on his computer says like actual words are hard to decipher, so this will work. Basically it's just like, and they just need that. And it's a conscious choice that we don't find out what it actually means in the show or why they need it or anything. But, it's clear that they're going to kill Daniel and Krista unless he translates it. So he translates it and they get zatted. And then, I guess the running joke coming up with the trust episodes is it's the same kind of like FBI agent who runs into the warehouse after the trust has already left, each time. After Hodgkins and Jenkins are gone each time, or whatever their names are, the trust agents that we see. But
magical poof, they're gone.
Yeah.
And I did read that this episode aired out of order from what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to air after the next one, which is Covenant, because in Covenant, we're introduced to the trust. And then, so it kind of, you sit there and you go, wait a minute, the trust, what happened to the NID? Like, wait, did we get a new bad organization? And I like fell asleep or something.
No, we'll find out about them next week. And apparently they have great coffee killing skills where they can take out a cup of coffee from 500 yards away.
In a park.
In a park, yeah.
With kids.
Position 1, take the cup or whatever Jenkins said, yeah.
Yeah. And then, we get Pete with the comment like, I guess it happens, something about people disappearing without, the exits are covered and they just disappear. This happens all the time for you. And she's like, no, well.
Yeah. Actually.
Maybe.
And so the body armor that Pete and Carter are wearing when they go into the warehouse, so they had ordered from, the set, the costume people, like actual body armor, but it was late and they needed to start filming. So they had the cops that had like closed off the street and was kind of just like, there to do crowd control. They went up to those cops and said, hey, can we borrow your body armor for this scene? And they're like, sure. And so,
why not?
Yeah. And so I forget like what the name of the body armor company is, but, the producers were very like, you can't wear those. We'll have to clear it with the company, to use their name and their product. And they're like, they're not going to care. And they didn't, of course, it was like good publicity for like this body armor company. So it's actual like body armor that was literally taken off of Vancouver policemen and women.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so 2004, not 2024, right? You go up to the cops now and you're like, can we borrow your body armor for a scene?
Taser. Yeah. Yeah, no, and it is. I mean, it's just so charming. Like when you watching these commentaries and learning more about how the show is made and stuff. And it's just, how much of it is necessity, but that's just making, a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I
had a question and I didn't see the answer to it. So maybe it was in the commentary. So the thugs at the beginning, the car, those guys had way too much fun making that scene, right?
Yeah.
The guy threatening the other guy driving the car. And I wondered if they were maybe actors who played Jaffa or, and like they finally get to talk and have fun and dress in normal clothes. And they just seemed to having way too much fun making that an entrance scene.
Yeah. Sean Millington, I think, who is, one of the thugs. He's actually Christopher Judge's body double.
Oh, okay.
As well as, if you look at him, he's actually had like 7 or 8. He was Ronak in the Crossroads episode. He's been Jaffa before. So he's been the Jaffa. And I think he's, at the time this was filmed, he was Christopher Judge's body double. So whenever you see like an over the shoulder shot of Teal'c and Christopher Judge isn't there, it's actually his shoulder. But you're right. Brad Kelly has been a number of Jaffa as well. So yeah,
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. They finally get, and apparently like crashing the car was like, they had to do it. It took them like 3 attempts to get the car crashed to look right, of all things. Yeah. So, but
that's funny.
Yeah, so a lot going on in this episode, but yeah, it just seems a little weird. And I think maybe if we'd seen Covenant before this one, if they had aired them in the proper order, like the Trust would have been a more credible villain, and we would have had some idea of like why all of a sudden are these people kidnapping, Daniel and holding people for ransom and stuff. It just didn't make a lot of sense. But
seeing that Teal'c was being watched actually it made sense, just because there are enough people, government people, military people, who know that he is an alien. And there's, like I said, the NID, Trust. It's a secret, but it's not a secret, So it is kind of that, why isn't he living off base? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's a sitting duck and he's a target and things are going to happen.
Yeah. And they even called this out kind of obliquely on the commentary too. It's like Sam can have a boyfriend, right? Because he's a cop and can take care of himself, but Teal'c can't have a girlfriend on Earth because, she wouldn't be able to, fend for herself or something. So it was a little bit of a double standard there, but
except for she did kill somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, she did.
With her bare hands.
Yeah.
So I'm just maybe she can.
Yeah. It's a Jaffa martial arts there. It looks like Tai Chi, but it's a little bit more potent than that.
Yeah, I've always wondered why they don't just give Teal'c, because there's got to be some kind of Air Force housing near Cheyenne Mountain. So why don't they just give him a place there? And maybe that's where maybe he does have a room there or something. But yeah,
You're right. Why does he have to live in the mountain?
Yeah, or move him close to Sam or Jack or Carter or Daniel rather. Like they all have places or have him be a roommate with them. Just to kind of like keep an eye, because it was funny when Daniel shows up to Teal'c's apartment. And Teal'c's like, "So, are you here to greet me or he's like, "Oh, I'm just here to see your housewarming." And Teal'c just gives the eyebrow and he says, "Okay, Jack told me to check on you."
Yeah.
And the whole discussion about decorating, that was good. That there's a TV station that tells you how to decorate your house, and and then of course Daniel Jackson, which is funny. Daniel Jackson says he watches more History Channel, which
makes sense.
Which is funny because every house or apartment we've seen for Daniel, which how many now have they had to clean out? Like his is stuffed full with like artifacts kind of stuff. And so you think he would have appreciated a little bit of Teal'c's because, Teal'c had a nice vibe going.
Yeah, and I thought when he was talking about his fern, he said, "You may need to talk to it." And it brought me back to One False Step and
talking to plants, yeah.
You're going to sing to it.
Yeah. This was also the only appearance of Michael Rogers as Colonel Kendrick in Stargate, although he had two other roles, one coming up, but he was kind of the wormy Weasley guy who was like confronting Jack about Teal'c, living off base and stuff. He was Colonel John Michaels in The Gamekeeper, the guy who kept in Jack's kind of game vision, storming the house and always getting shot all the time, and not having a lot of patience for Jack telling him it was all a game and make believe. So there you go.
Funny. Yeah. And I did read that originally who they wanted for Krista was Claudia Black.
Oh, really?
And that she had a conflict. So I guess it worked out because, or maybe it did or didn't. I don't know, because we get Claudia Black next season.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, I think we get her this season in an episode, don't we? That's where she's introduced.
We do. I think you're right. She's introduced this season.
Right. Yeah.
I'll have to see if the way she goes from introduction to cast member makes any more sense watching it this time around than it did. I think when I watched it, I was like, why is that character from that one episode like a cast member now? But oh well.
Why we go from three members of SG1 to 5?
Yeah.
Wild.
Well, Jack did say there's no rules on the number of SG, or I guess it was Sam maybe who said there was no rules on the number of SG people on a team.
And I'm always gonna hold a grudge that Sam gets demoted.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. Any other thoughts?
The only other thing I thought of was going back to Teal'c's, the intro scene where he stops the fight is I wonder if this was kind of the seed of the idea that we see in 200 where they're all kind of pitching different things for Marty to create the shows, and he has the one show, he's Teal'c, but it's like Shaft, and you see him like he's kind of dressed like that. So I wonder if that's kind of like maybe that was a seed of that idea was in the intro to this, and being like kind of the local crime fighter.
Yeah.
Oh, and the avocado was a CG avocado that hit the thug fleeing with the police. Yeah, well, Teal'c throws an avocado, but then when you see it come in, that's CG hitting him, but it was really the stunt person being slammed down into the pavement 6 or 7 times until they got the right take. So
I was thinking, dang, he hit him hard for not only it knocked him over, but it like knocked him out.
Yeah.
Because no one rushes forward to like get her purse or to do anything with him. They're just like, oh, wow, that's great. He's just laying there not moving. And I'm like, that's some avocado.
Yeah, must be a very
guacamole.
Very unripe avocado. It's like freshly picked and hasn't.
Well, do we have any foreign language titles?
We do. Yeah, I was just coming around to those. So in most cases, it's Affinity, including in German, we get Affinitat, which is affinity. But in French, we get Monde Cruel, which is cruel world. And so, which I think, this is kind of like your typical French movie. It's like hero falls in love with girl murders boy, hero can't have girl or something, so.
Yeah. And then girl, let's see. Hero falls in love with girl. Girl murders boyfriend. Then girl absconds with hero to get him framed for murder and then acts like nothing ever happened. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. What can you do?
Where he says he can't keep in touch. And she's like, aw.
All right. Well, I hear Doug has a brother. I'm going to give him a call. But so anywho, we do have some feedback. We have a very nice one, but it's for Father Corey, so we'll save that. But we have some feedback on episode 157, which was our Avatar episode on SG1. This is kind of a nice little point counterpoint here. Flying Car 100 writes, I actually kind of like this episode. And then Valathor 95 writes, me too. And then Mark Gillies 1970 says, this one is bad, but I still like it more than Spirits. And so...
Well, that's a callback. I mean, we haven't talked about Spirits in a long time.
Tonane. Yeah, I don't know. I like Spirits for how like weird it is, especially was it Tonane the character who's kind of like goofy and stuff in it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So but Avatar, I mean I liked it better this time around than I did when I first saw it. So
well, I just re-listened to that episode since it came out recently, and I was like, dang, y'all were rough.
I mean,
I think because all three of you are avid video gamers, probably.
Yeah.
So you had higher expectations for it.
Yeah, that was probably it.
Yeah, I've never really played video games, so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it does have its fans though. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's good to know that. All right. Well, on that note, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Stargate, including Father Anthony G., Michael P., Robert S., John L., and Robert C. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Stargate and all the shows on StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia or on Spotify. They do video podcasts now, apparently. To find previous episodes of Secret of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And you can also email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, all one word, or on Twitter at SQPN. We'll be back next time with the next episode of Stargate Atlantis, Poisoning the Well. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Victor.
And thank you, Jeff Haecker, as well.
Thanks, Victor.
And once again, I'm Victor Lambs. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest. And remember, wow, I like what you're doing with the place. Sort of Jaffa Cheek with an East African flair.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an HGTV show about that.
Yeah, Jaffa Cheek.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?